Hey everyone, Tony D with another hot take. Had to do another late night hot take. This one, Project Veritas again. Excuse me. The Bernie staffers are back, and they're more communist than ever. So go to the Project Veritas YouTube channel, and you can see the video for yourself. It's another two staffers. These guys are a little young. They definitely look like college students who. They've bought the whole communist line, hook, line, and sinker. But that's not the thing that's interesting. I mean, obviously, these two guys, they don't strike me as two guys who are going to pick up an AK-47 and start shooting up the place. But they don't discount that option, really. There's an underlying current in all their rhetoric that if Bernie doesn't get elected, well, we might have to escalate. Or we might have to light some fires and break some stuff, and maybe we'll have to shoot people. I mean, one of the guys says something like, well, I don't want to kill the landlords. I mean, I don't think we should. And like the other half of that is, but if we have to. These guys are completely clueless on how things work, in my opinion. And I don't even think they understand who owns the guns. But the fact that they work for the Bernie Sanders campaign, and they're saying this kind of stuff. They're saying that basically they're kind of endorsing violence. They have a tacit endorsement towards violence. I think political violence. They're basically just like, well, we're going to try this, but if we don't win, then we're probably going to have to kick things up a bit. Like that's the undercurrent to their talking. So first off, they don't appear to have any use for the democratic process. The fact that they could lose the election, no, that's unacceptable. It seems to be unacceptable to them, that's probably the most frightening part of the video. They don't seem to want to accept a democratic outcome, and they should. They should accept a democratic outcome. It's fine to complain about Trump if he wins, but the fact that you're planning on, Bernie doesn't win and we're going to do something, like that is not good. Not good at all. As much as I didn't like George Bush and I thought he was a weasel, when he got elected at first, I had to see what the guy would do. I had to wait until he did something stupid before I'm going to go, oh, this guy's an a-hole. These guys, forget it. They're already planning, Bernie's loss, and when they're not deluding themselves in that he's going to win, and at the same time they feel like, well, they're speaking for the worker, right? They feel like, the socialist revolution or whatever it is they're trying to put forth, it's really for the worker, and the worker's going to join them, and the workers aren't going to join you. I mean, the only people who believe this kind of stuff are not workers. People who work, like physically work for a living, they have no use for socialism because it's a bunch of hooey that they work, they get money, and they go pay for the things they need. They're looking to move up, hopefully, become management so they don't have to work so hard, maybe start a business. So the idea that you're going to bring over these poor, oppressed workers, they're not oppressed. Work sucks. I mean, let's be honest. Work sucks. No one likes to do it. They'd rather be doing other things. Sometimes you have to work late. Sometimes you have to work on the weekends, whatever. It all sucks. But the alternative is much, much worse. The alternative is, well, you could be living on a farm like they did back in the day and growing your own crops and praying to God they grow, because if they don't, you're screwed. You could be, trying to eke out a living on your farm and just barely getting by and not having hardly any meat in the process, maybe trading for a thing like a knife or a plow or whatever. And, you hit a couple of bad growing seasons, you're in real trouble. We've come a long way since then. So, when someone rolls into town or knocks on your door and says, hey, give me your stuff, we have all sorts of ways that you can get your stuff back, call the police, you can You can get in your car and drive away. I mean, we live in a much more complex society that is an oppression, in the least. We have laws and courts and all sorts of things, especially in the United States. You have a gun for home protection. Nobody will mess with you then. So, the idea that these guys think, oh my God, we need a revolution, we need to just tear the whole system down, is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. These guys are working in a nice office. They're on the phone and they're on their computer and they're able to chat with their coworker like this. I mean, that's pretty cozy. That is pretty cozy. There's a lot of people, even in this country, who aren't chatting it up with their coworkers about all the political things they think. The fact that you could do that shows that the system's pretty good, actually. So I don't think these guys really understand how good they have it. They are what the Soviets used to call useful idiots. These are the guys who would push for it because they don't understand what communism actually does, or what socialism actually does. By the time they understand it, they'll all be dead. These guys would be the first guys to be ground under by an actual socialist or communist, because they have to go. First, they get rid of all the elites, because the elites can easily make the argument that, hey, this isn't going to work. So they have to get rid of all those guys. The next people that go are the true believers, because Stalin had to get rid of those, because those guys are the guys who would say, wait a minute, this is supposed to work differently. So, and then you're left with the workers who just sort of keep their head down and go, oh, great, now we got socialism. These guys, should be denounced by the Sanders campaign. Just like if the Trump campaign had, whatever, skinheads or whomever in their campaign, and they were endorsing, essentially, tacitly or otherwise, violent political overthrows, or, endorsing things like the gulags. The Germans had a special word for the gulags, which I won't use because you get censored on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about, the World War II ones. If anyone from a Republican campaign, God forbid, said something about that and tried to defend them, they'd be out. They'd be out on their ear in a second. So Bernie Sanders really has dropped the ball here. He's already protected 2 of them. Now Project Veritas has exposed 2 more. They should just be fired. I mean, just fire them. Get rid of them. Say, we do not tolerate that kind of nonsense in the campaign. We're not socialists. We're not Marxists. We're democratic socialists. If that's what you really are, Bernie. If you're tacitly trying to slip communism in, well, then good luck with that, because fighting for a lie is not going to work. It's why the Bernie campaign is doomed to failure, like reason 27 why it's doomed to failure, because even these guys on tape are saying, well, we don't push the crazy stuff up front. We wait till we get them in, and then we ease them into the crazy stuff. Yeah, that might work for some 19-year-old college student, but it's not going to work for like a 30-year-old plumber who's joined the campaign thinking that, well, maybe I'll get better benefits and I could expand my business a little, and hopefully Bernie's going to fight for the small businessman, and he realizes that, oh, no, we're going to, even a small businessman is going to be burdened with, tons of debt, and, you're going to have to pay all this money out for benefits for an assistant, and, you're not going to be able to pay him in terms of a low pay if you're teaching him a trade. You're just going to have to pay him this arbitrary amount that is set by the federal government. Yeah, once he knows that, he's going to be out of the campaign. Once he knows you're going to riot in the streets if Bernie loses, he's going to be out. Not that a lot of these guys would ever be in your campaign, because they're doing very well right now. Most people are doing okay. The economy's good, and these guys are living in a bubble. They're living in the bubble of the college, and that's where communism still has root. The college system is insulated from profit motive to a large degree. And it's pretty centralized, and you can go down the rabbit hole of lots of ideas and just, have tunnel vision. And that's what these guys have. They don't study economics. They don't know what it takes to start a business and maintain it. They don't understand what it's like to run a cafe where you have two waitresses and you're paying them money, and then maybe you're generous enough to give the waitress benefits, and then you got one of the waitresses who is constantly taking off for their kid. Oh, my kid had a runny nose today, I'm not going to be in. And then you have to work in her spot, and you got stuff to do, but your life is a shambles because you spend all your time helping this employee of yours work, right? Instead of her, she comes in, she misses more days than she works, and you're constantly on call because it's your business, and you can't rely on this person. And this is what people don't understand. You have to be able to fire people. You have to be able to give them incentive to work. You have to be able to say, you're not working out. You're not coming in on time. I need you here. I need you here at these hours. You agreed to work these hours. You got to stop. Well, but my kid. Well, then quit your job and go take care of your kid. I have to hire somebody else. And that's a tough position to be in. I get it if you have a kid. But, you also have a job. So you have to balance the two somehow. You have to get a sitter. You have to make arrangements. You have to put the kid in daycare. Maybe you have to take the kid to work if you can. But you can't, make a commitment and then put the burden. So many people put the burden on other people. They just impose. Just like, oh, you can cover this for me, right? At a certain point, you got to go, no, I can't. You're fired. So socialist, communist, they don't understand that. They don't care about that. They think, oh, well, the worker should run the show. That's like the clowns running the circus a lot of times. They don't know what's needed. In the world of comics, I've worked with a lot of comic book artists, and they're great guys. Wonderful people, creative people. They don't always understand business, though. And sometimes you get into a problem with them when you're trying to explain business and they just want to do something crazy and artistic. And you try to explain to them, well, I don't think that's going to sell. I don't want to put my money into that. And in the end, you may have to part company. You may have to go get another artist, maybe a lesser talent, maybe a bigger talent. You don't know. The talent's everywhere. But the point is, there is a balance between the business side and the artistic side. And there's a balance between, helping your worker out. And, you don't have to be a jerk. But at the same time, they have to agree to work certain times, or else you can't open the business. You don't know when to open the business. You can't put up a sign, when are you open? Well, whenever Cheryl gets her act together and her kid isn't sick. You can't put that on the sign. These are pragmatic things that socialism and communism just doesn't take into effect. They live in a magical utopia where somehow the socialists and communists were able to deal with all that, and yet they still failed. And yet somehow it wasn't the fault of the ideology. It was somehow outside. Even if you grant, okay, it wasn't the fault of the ideology. It was outside, attackers that ruined communism, let's say. That still means that there's a weakness inherent in the system, that anyone can come from the outside and go, boop, and knock the whole thing over. So, Bernie, if you want any chance of actually running the country, and I don't think you have a chance in hell, but if you do want a chance, you got to disavow these guys. Kick them out of your campaign and tell people what you really stand for, or else, don't be surprised when you're called a commie, because I think you probably are.